You're listening to Eureka on Monocle Radio, brought to you by the team behind The Entrepreneurs, the show all about inspiring people, innovative companies, and fresh ideas in global business. I'm Tom Edwards. Frank Roop is an interior designer and the founder of the Textilium Project, a direct-to-consumer platform making high-end, 100% natural textiles accessible to design-conscious individuals. After years of curating textile schemes for private clients, he saw a gap in the market. How do people without a designer find and combine the best materials for their homes? This led to Textilium, which simplifies the process by transforming exclusive trade-only fabrics into ready-to-use design schemes, removing the guesswork from selecting colours, textures and finishes. So, how do you take these once exclusive textiles and bring them to a new audience of creative? Well, here's Frank with more on how the journey began.
So the Textilium Project was something I thought about many years ago when I was working with a client in my interior design business. And the client mentioned, how do you come up with all these textile schemes, specifically for my home? Because I was describing the trick of finding all these materials, and there's, literally hundreds of thousands that you cull through just to come up with schemes for a client. And then he said, how do you come up with that? And I said, well, it's a ton of work. And it made me start thinking about, how do normal people that aren't working with designers or architects have access to those materials? And if they did, how would they even put together schemes? It's almost impossible. So that's what made me think about how to come up with a system or a new type of business or way of looking at textiles in order to get it out to a lot more people. So that's how the Textilium Project started. And also, an equally as important thing is I'm very attuned to all natural materials and fibers and how they can bring joy into your home and making it something beautiful to live with, but also the fact that synthetic materials off-gas, and there's situations now where, homes are so tight that these materials have nowhere to breathe. So off-gassing is, if you think about it, if you open up a new box of sneakers and you get hit with that nasty smell, it's basically a chemical release into the air from petroleum-based products. So that's what off-gassing is. I'm all into 100% natural textiles, and I transferred that same ethos into the Textilium Project. We're thinking about our target audiences, maybe 25 to 40. They're creatives, they're in communications, they're in artistic businesses and things like that, and they want to take pride in designing their own space. They have no interest in working with an architect or a designer like myself, but they really want to have access to the good stuff. So that's our target audience, is someone who's a creative person that's successful, because what we have is not inexpensive, it's expensive, it's the best of the best materials, but they want to work and create their own space. We hope to get out to many people that are looking to create a special environment for the home. And I think down the road, I'd probably have guest designers put together schemes. So, I have 90 plus schemes that I put together that are, thousands of hours of work. But I feel like maybe bringing in other interior designers, putting together vision that they have with our same format, I think could be very interesting. When we're thinking about putting together concepts and schemes, so first of all, I think about nature and, the outside world and how it inspires the inside world. So as I'm thinking about those things, we think of color context as the number one thing. It's how colors are affected by surrounding colors. Contrasting colors paired together can cause hues to appear completely different than when they're viewed singularly. I look at saturation. I'm interested in high saturated textiles so that, some of them actually have much more pop than others. So it creates more interest in terms of contrast with saturation. We think about textural contrast. So again, we like things that have a handmade woven thick weave compared with things that are smooth and shiny. We take our cues from nature, like I said before. So we, think about things in the outside world. So you think of places that you've traveled and been to, and those things a lot of times drive what interior spaces are all about. So if you have your living room and it has colors and textures that remind you of a beautiful hiking trip you took in Patagonia, it's something that's personal and special to you. So we we think about those things, putting together the schemes. Color blocking is a big one for me. So a lot of times we deal with a lot of solids, but when we put them together, like the toss pillows or upholstered pieces might be brighter or darker, and they have their own kind of identity within the scheme, and that actually makes like a more interesting composition, in my opinion. And of course, personal taste is the last one, then, and that is, very subjective. But to me, personal taste is about discovering things that you think maybe aren't obvious to others that might look beautiful to you, and maybe you present it in a way that people might be inspired by that. So those are the 6 criteria that we use to putting together schemes. I think when things are inspired by nature, they're not trendy, they're not something that will go in and out of style. When I think about interiors, I don't want things to be going out of style in 2 years, because if you have a very beautiful piece of fabric that's on your sofa, you don't want to throw it out in 3 years' time. You want it to last 10, 15, 20 years.
That was Frank Roop, the founder and owner of the Textilium Project, and you can learn more about the business by heading to textilium.com. And that's all for this episode of Eureka. We'll be back at the same time next week. The programme was produced by Laura Kramer with audio editing by Jack Dewars. Listen again and find out more at monocle.com. That's where you can join the club and subscribe to Monocle magazine, or follow us and catch up with the archive wherever you get your audio. If you'd like to reach the team, email Laura on lrk@monocle.com. I'm Tom Edwards. Goodbye, and thanks for listening to Eureka.